everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Breaking Character. My name is Jordan-Paige, and I'm the show creator and host. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Sorry if my voice is a little weird. I woke up like 45 minutes ago and haven't talked a whole lot today, so my voice sounds a little off. Today I am so excited to have DAIVA FRIEDMANN on the show. As a multifaceted artist, DAIVA finds herself with many passions in the worlds of performance and literature. A lifelong addiction to stories has cascaded into a path pursuing acting on both stage and screen, as well as pursuits as a poet and a zine maker. From performing Shakespeare to perfecting her Irish accent, writing custom poems for strangers in the street, to creating hand-painted zines, her obsession with art is great. So without further ado, let's head to Zine. Right. Hey everyone, I am so excited today to be talking to DAIVA. DAIVA, how are you? How's your day going?
I'm good. I've had most of my day actually, so yeah, it was good. I hung out with a friend, just relaxed. Now I'm talking to you.
Nice. Sounds like a pretty good day. I'm coming, as we talked before I started this, coming from a stairwell, so I'm echoing. So weird, probably the weirdest location I filmed in so far. But I am so excited to have you on the show and talk to you today. So let's get this started with two truths and a lie. I'm gonna attempt to guess which one the lie is. We'll see if I actually get it right. I've been on a roll recently with getting them right, but I don't know if we'll keep it up. So whenever you're ready.
Okay. So the first one is when I was like 11, I played an Oompa Loompa in James and the Giant Peach.
Okay.
Second is I haven't watched Legally Blonde. And third, sometimes I run like just for fun, purely for fun.
All right. Okay. All right. Okay. I'm gonna guess. I'm gonna guess that the first one's the lie, but only because you played a different character in James and the Giant Peach.
No,
darn it.
I played an Oompa Loompa, and I do not know why. Like, I thought the Oompa Loompas were strictly for Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, but someone decided it was a good idea.
Well, and it's funny you say that because I, in my lifetime, have done two productions of James and the Giant Peach, and I want to say I remember in the second one we did, it was a different script from the one that we did, like I did in the other one, and I want to say there was something similar to that, and I was like, wait a second, what is this? This doesn't belong in this show. So which one's the lie?
The lie is I have actually seen Legally Blonde.
Oh, okay.
I watched it like last week. It was as iconic as they say.
It is a pretty good movie. It is a great, I love that. And then running for fun, I give you credit.
It's very occasional, I will admit.
Not all the time, just a once in a while thing.
When I'm feeling slightly sociopathic.
Sounds about, we all have those days, right? We have those days.
Yeah, we do.
So I would love to ask you first about poetry. You mentioned that you have a specific love, especially for writing poetry for people based on their specific requests. And I would love to hear more about that. So what about that idea like really draws you to it?
Okay, well, first I think I need to give you like some context of like what this process is.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, it's not my original idea, but basically, the poet for hire movement or street poets, basically they go out onto the street usually with a typewriter, and they offer poems to strangers walking by. So you can give the poet a story, a subject, a word, a concept, and they make you a poem on the spot. Some people do haikus, some people do freestyle. I do freestyle. Because I find it's the easiest to capture people's requests with. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I really love this idea because it's about like making poetry more accessible, because I feel like a lot of people are intimidated by poetry because in school you're like, you have to dissect and study and find all the secret hidden meaning that the writer's so,
Yes.
So when someone can like request a poem about anything they want, it becomes a lot more personal and a lot more easy to understand because you're creating the message. And also how not every poet does this, but a lot do a pay what you want. So it's accessible to anyone on any budget. And so you can get a poem for 50 cents, and then some people are insanely generous, and they give you a poem for like pay $20, and it's crazy. But I like to let people decide how much the poetry is worth to them. Yeah.
That's
Um,
awesome.
so I don't know if that really answers your question about why I love it, but I saw a poet in Toronto, near where I live, and they were sitting in the park, and I was immediately intrigued. I was like, what is going on here? Because I've always had this like love and connection for writing and poetry, and I was like, could I do that? Like, could I? Um, yeah.
That is awesome. That is seriously so cool. And I have seen some street poets now that I think about it. Like I have seen a few where I've seen
Yeah.
friends of mine who like would post on their Instagram story about how they had gotten one, and I was like, oh, like that's so cool. I'm definitely one of those people that is intimidated by poetry. It's also just it's not my writing style, but it's amazing. I love what people can do with poetry and the images that can come up with that. So that is awesome. And then I wanted to see if you could tell us a little bit too about Zine making. I am not familiar with Zine making at all, so I would love to hear more about what it is.
Well, it's actually zine making. It's
Well, see, there you go. Look, zine. Got it.
yeah.
I'm gonna remember that now.
So it's like magazine but zine. So it's basically short little handmade booklet magazine esque things. Historically, they were like used in like the women's rights movement and other movements to share like ideas, strong ideas, revolutionary thoughts, things like that. Um, I am not a visual artist. I try, but it's not one of my specialties. But what I love about zine making is that it's just like the freedom to like whatever you want and put it into this little booklet, and it's kind of like a way to like make give a visual aspect to your poems, or it could, like for me that's what I usually use it for, but it could also be if you have strong ideas about anything and you want to share them. It's a good way to self-publish your work, make it like easily accessible because they're really cheap, because they're just like photocopied most of the time onto like just printer paper. um yeah, and it's also like I think it's a good way to like compartmentalize like all your ideas into like different categories of zines. um yeah, that's I guess that kind of explains it.
No, absolutely it does. I mean, first of all, the biggest thing I learned is how to pronounce it correctly. So that's important. I definitely should have Googled that before, so I didn't embarrass myself. But hey, no, but that's really awesome. As you said, I can imagine that makes it a lot easier to self-publish because it's a much more
Yeah.
accessible route. You don't have to worry about, oh well, it's a full-length novel, or if it's a book of poetry, but and to get it out certain places. So can I ask what's your favorite zine you've made?
I have a current obsession with trains. I'm not exactly sure why,
Trains are
but
cool.
yes, and like just that mode of travel, like the kind of old timey feel, and so I wrote a zine called Train Travel, um, and I was pretty proud of that. It had some okay artwork, and I hope eventually that I'm able to like publish these zines, because right now they're just like for myself, for my um, poetry. But also another really good thing is you don't have to know anything about graphic design too, and usually for a magazine you do,
Mm.
which I experienced. I made a magazine, like a full magazine last spring called Suburban Cheese Pop,
That's
and
an awesome name. That is awesome.
yeah, my brother helped me come up with that. We were in the kitchen. That's where ideas usually come from. Yeah, and I had no idea about, like, I had no experience with graphic design, so that was really a struggle to make it look nice. I had a lot of help, which which was good if I didn't. Yeah.
That's awesome though. That is super cool, and I'm very glad I know more about zine making. And so okay, here time for my wild card question. Has nothing to do with anything. Is there any product that you couldn't live without?
Um, like a consumer product.
Any sort of product?
Okay, this is gonna sound strange, but um, okay, here. This. This is a Japanese pen. It's a Muji pen, and it is literally the nicest thing to write with. If you write anything by hand, this is a very materialistic thing, but the quality of pen is something that I greatly appreciate. So
No, great quality pens are great. In fact, I just ordered myself a set of markers last night off Amazon, and I was reading through the reviews very carefully, going, "What are they saying? I want to make sure I have good markers."
it's a serious commitment.
It really, yeah. Well, that and as someone who too, the some of the first things that I wrote, like the books that I published or self-published, I wrote them by hand first, and I
Yeah.
only wrote them with a fountain pen. That was the only thing I wrote them with. I was
That
like,
is good.
like one of the modern, fountain pens, like the easier one to use ones. But yeah, with the ink cartridges and everything, I was like, why did you do that? Like, um, oh gosh. All right. Well, now it's time for memory association. And the way memory association works is I've got a random word generator pulled up here on my phone. I'm going to generate a random word. And when we hear the word, we're going to share the first story that comes to our mind when we hear that word. Even if the story ends up having nothing to do with that word, whatever you think of first. So, all right, our word is tiger.
Mm, I don't know. Well,
If you don't have one, we can choose a different one. I could totally generate another one.
Oh wait, I do have one.
Okay, go
Okay,
ahead.
so there was this children's book that my mother used to read to me, and it was called like The Tiger Skin Rug, and it was basically about this lonely tiger who well, he wasn't lonely at first. He was a pet, but then they started neglecting him and it was really sad. And then he switched places with the tiger skin rug. I'm really butchering the storyline here, but it was a really sweet book. I don't know if that's
I mean, it sounds like a very interesting story. I might have to look that up later, and because I have never heard of it. I don't think I was never read that story. I don't think we ever had that book. My memory with Tiger was when I went to Disney World, I think this past April for my birthday, and I was walking around Animal Kingdom, and I got to the path where there was the tiger enclosure. And when I tell you that this tiger was staring at me in such a way that if there was not a gate, solid thing between us, I think it would have wanted to kill me. I was like, I don't know, what am I even doing? I'm just standing here. Like, that thing had its eyes locked on me, and I was like, I don't know what I did to upset you, but I am really glad there's this barrier in between us.
the
But
tiger was like having an off day. He was like,
he
no,
really was.
not
He really
today.
was. I was like, dude, I'm sorry. Like, you're really cool to look at. Like, tigers are awesome, but I'm sorry for disturbing you. Like, I don't know what I did, but I apologize for it. So that's my story about a tiger. Okay, and then you also mentioned that you'd be happy to talk about your acting career and your interest in writing. So what got you interested in both of those fields?
I think I feel like I was always interested in acting. Um, I can't remember if I was in like maybe a school production or I saw a production first. No, wait, that's not true. I saw the Nutcracker. My grandmother took me to see the Nutcracker when I was 5. Everyone, everyone's like, yes, I saw the Nutcracker, changed my life. But I was this like little pudgy 4-year-old, 5-year-old, sitting in the audience, and I was like something like clicked in my head. And then I got started in theater. Uh, First, just school productions, then community theater. I went to a performing arts school in like middle school, and we did musicals. That's when I started getting into musicals because I also started doing dance then. Um, then some Shakespeare. That was pretty cool. Still is cool. And then most recently, I started getting into film and TV during the pandemic. Not a great time to start.
Well, it just sometimes it happens that way, right?
Yeah, and then so I signed with my agent last February.
Congratulations. That's
Thank
awesome.
you. And I've been auditioning and taking classes, done some short films, things like that. But I really hope to do more theater. I really want to get back to that because obviously the pandemic has really shut down theater completely. And that's like one of my New Year's resolutions or goals, is to be in a theater production again, because I haven't since maybe 2019. And yeah, as for writing, I guess there was always like a need to tell stories, and acting was a way to do that, and so was writing. I don't know why. As I look back, I'm like, why did I choose those two things? They're like, you need the most patience and the most like focus to do both of those things, because in neither one is it easy to succeed.
Ain't that the truth? Ain't that the truth?
Like, I could have chosen like acting and then like something that like just comes right away, like easily. Yeah. But yeah, so it's about the stories, and acting, of course, is you're jumping into someone else's story and kind of seeing the world from their eyes, which I really enjoy and appreciate. And then writing is telling that story, like finding the story in the world, grabbing it, and laying it out. So it kind of like those two things are like the two different parts of storytelling for me, and they come together really well. Yeah.
Definitely. I definitely get that. And then piggybacking off that question, could you tell us a little bit what your plans are for the future?
Well, as I said, theater production. I'm living in Denmark at the moment, so there's not a lot of English speaking theater and film productions. So at the moment, acting is a little bit on hold. But as for writing and poetry, I have a lot of plans for the summer. I want to take poetry around Europe, kind of as a concept to see if I can pay my way to travel Europe using just poetry, like street poetry, which is going to be an experiment.
Like an amazing adventure.
Yeah, that's going to require a lot more planning, but that is something I really hope I get to do. Yeah, I mean, I don't have that many plans. I'm on my gap year at the moment, so I really like just want to let things happen, and whatever happens. Yeah, so I don't really have any plans other than that.
That sounds like a really awesome plan, though. I will be crossing my fingers for you, because that sounds like such an incredible adventure. Even just, I mean, going around Europe in general, especially because like you can get on a train to go from like one to another, and like here in the States, it's like, yeah, no, good luck. Like plane or driving for 20 hours. There you go. Like,
yeah, you can get a train ticket for like 10 euros and be in a completely different country in like 5 hours. So.
I know, it's amazing. That's why, oh my gosh, I want to travel to Europe. I've been to Europe before on like sort of, it wasn't really a school trip, but like you could go with the school, like if you did whatever. And I've been to London, Paris, and Rome, and that was really awesome. And so I'd love to do, especially too, because I've got a lot of my former college classmates are in Europe, and I'm like, I want to visit them. So yeah. Maybe someday. And then could you give some advice to those that are watching? This could be any type of advice you want, career advice, life advice, whatever you feel like.
I think my advice would be for people my age, people that are just graduating high school. I feel like society is telling us that there's only like one path. Like you have to finish high school and you have to rush right off to university. And it's basically, we're told that university is the only path to success. And I plan on going to university. I think that university, if you have the ability to go, that's an incredible pleasure. And privilege, that's the word I meant.
I know. Yeah, I got you. I understand.
But I think that in this like rat race that we're told to be on, that we lose the ability to like discover ourselves and what we actually are interested and want to do. And so I think if I had any advice, if you're able, you should take some time before you rush off to university and basically discover what you want to do, because it's not reasonable to decide at 17 what your career is going to be for the rest of your life. And if you're going to go to university, you want to go for something that you're genuinely interested in or passionate about, or you're actually going to use, and not going to decide 5-10 years in the future that you spent all this time and energy on this degree that you have no interest in. So I think taking a little bit of time, slowing down a little bit, and figuring out actually where you want to go is not failing. It's 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 better if you have the opportunity, and you can decide what you really want to do.
I could not agree with that more. I swear, my housemate's boyfriend is one of those who went into college, you know, right after high school, got a business major, got out of college, got into a job as a business major, and went, yeah, no, I want to be an actor. I hate this. I don't want to do this at all. And so, yeah, I definitely, you know, I definitely agree with that. And there's such that societal pressure, which I think now hopefully we're starting to move very slowly.
There's so much pressure. Like the entirety of grade 12, all we can talk about is what universities we're going to apply to. Are our grades good enough? What's our plan for the future? And I think that's horrible to have to decide at 16 or 17 years old, because there's just so much pressure to know what you want that you have to make a decision whether you're ready to or not. And I think that's honestly horrible.
It is. It really is. And like all the, you know, some of the alternative, you know, trade schools are like looked down on. And you're like, okay, well, when you need someone to fix your air conditioning, are you really going to look down at the person who went to trade school and is fixing your air conditioning for you? Like, no. Like, you know, if that's what someone is, if they're great with their hands and they're like, I like working on stuff like that, you know, I really hope we move more towards that, even more of like, hey, you don't have to know right now. You don't need to rush to college or university right as, you know, right after you graduate if you don't know what you want to do, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then, so when things get tough, what pushes you to keep going?
I looked at this question before the interview and I was like, I don't have a good answer for that, because I feel like sometimes nothing pushes me. Sometimes I just stop completely and I stop creating, I stop feeling motivated. I feel like we all do. And this is not what anyone wants to hear, but I think sometimes you do have to stop. You have to let yourself feel whatever you're feeling. If it's shitty, it's not a nice thing, but I feel like if you let that happen, and that's another thing, like there's the societal pressure that if we're not doing, creating, working, then we're failing inherently, and there's no other way that it could be. But I feel like if you ignore why you need to push through something, then it's going to come back to bite you later in a much bigger way. And if you do let yourself feel like shit for however long it takes, there will be a natural cycle where you come out of that, even if you can't see it in the moment, which I've had that experience many times. There will be a natural cycle where you come out and you'll have new motivation and new ideas. And as much as no one wants, I don't want to hear this either, I think that's the answer sometimes.
No, and I mean, honestly, it's crazy you say that, because guess who's in one of those right now? Me. I literally have just started into this, you know, with everything that, you know, the world being as crazy as it is right now. You know, I was like, this is not good. I was like, we're not on an uphill, we're on a downhill right now. And, you know, thankfully I didn't have any, you know, things in the immediate future that I was like creative goals immediately in the future. And I'm glad for that, because now it's not like, well, I'm not doing that thing, so I'm you know, which it shouldn't feel like that anyway. But you're right. Like, it's, you know, not everyone can be productive all the time. Like, that's just not human. And it's hard to remember that. So thank you for that advice, because it is definitely what I needed to hear right now. And I'm sure many other people need to hear it right now as well. And so lastly, where can people follow you and keep up with what you do?
I have an Instagram account. I'm not exceptionally active on it, but I do post updates of where I'm writing poetry, sometimes acting things. I do want to start a blog. I think that like in like the kind of early 2000s kind of way that like blogs were big, I want to bring that back. That's like another way to like channel writing, and in a different way, in a non-fiction kind of way. But yeah, if I do anything like that, it will be on my Instagram. So
awesome. Well, I will be sure to link that in the description so everyone can go and follow you on Instagram. And those are all my questions. So thank you so much again for being on the show.
Yeah, I'm glad to. This was a good talk.
I'm glad. I had a great time as well. So I'm going to click stop on the recording and we are going to head out of Zoom.
Thank you all so much again for watching today. I really hope you enjoyed. If you did, feel free to like, subscribe, or follow us on Instagram at Breaking Characters Show if you'd like. You can find all of DAIVA's and I's social media down in the description below. And if you yourself are a creative and you're interested in submitting to be on the show, you can check out the link in the description as well to submit yourself. Now, at the time that I'm filming this, it's actually the end of January. So right now, I don't actually know who's on the show next week. So hey, it's going to be a mystery for all of us. Keep an eye on our Instagram where we will announce who is going to be on the show next week. Thank you so much again for watching, and we will see you next Tuesday.